following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, a.k.a. the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
Welcome, everybody, to Exit Team Nashua. I'm Jessie, the co-host, and we have Jasmine, as always, with us tonight. And our guest is Ricky Parah. And we're, bringing you a Zoom episode straight from COVID-19. So welcome, guys. Good to see you both.
Dude, I love it when you open. I never even get creative like that. You're like straight from COVID. You need to be the open and host every show.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. Hi, Ricky.
Ricky, welcome. So what's going on? Where are you? Where are you? Are you in Portland?
Actually, right now I am at Green Mountain Treatment Center.
You're at Green Mountain Treatment Center. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, Jasmine invited you on, but, I know you a little bit. So, welcome. And why don't you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I was born in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Has become quite a famous city, and as far as drug addiction goes, and I'm no exception to that. I did grow up. I went to public school in North Andover, and eventually moved back to Lawrence when I was 18. Started using drugs early on, 13, like smoking weed and stuff. Eventually, without getting into all of the details, I did wind up addicted to heroin, addicted to crack, on the methadone clinic, eating handfuls of Adderall and Klonopin, and drinking heavily, and all that, right? And I turned 22 in rehab, and I turned 32 in rehab, and a whole bunch of attempts at maintaining sobriety in between. And a lot of those attempts looked like I was trying to achieve sobriety, not necessarily recovery. And so although I was sober, I was never recovered until I found a spiritual solution. And now I can say that I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body.
So you had said that you achieved sobriety but not recovery. What was the motivating factor to even want to be sober? Because I know before I found myself recovered, I never wanted to be sober. So
yeah, well, I mean, I guess I would hit these points where I think that the drugs and the alcohol are the problem. And so if I can just figure out some way to get the drugs and the alcohol out of my system and be physically sober, right? If the drugs and alcohol are causing all the problems and I stop doing the drugs and alcohol, then I should be better. Right. But my experience was that not only do I suffer from some sort of physical compulsion to keep doing it when I'm doing it, but I also suffer from this mental obsession, which I view as when the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks about insanity, that's what it's referring to. That even though, and the definition that we use for the obsession is a persistent thought that doesn't respond to reason. And so I had to come to grips with the fact that although I had every reason in the book, right, good relationships, a loving family, a good job, my own health, these are all great reasons to not pick back up. But this mental obsession, this insanity, it doesn't respond to any of those reasons. So I pick up even when I have every reason not to. And to take it a step further, I pick up even when I choose not to. Like even when all those times, like I decided, like I made a conscious decision, I'm not going to get drunk. I'm not going to get high. I don't want to get drunk or high. I shouldn't get drunk or high. I can't get drunk or high. I still get drunk or high. Right? And that's like cunning, baffling, and powerful. And that's where I needed some sort of.
I love it. I love it when I have real fucking alcoholics on the show. Because like really, like we live in like this like really big world, and there's all these different like treatment modalities and like recovery modalities, and like different things work for different people. But like I'm really sick, and like I suffer from the threefold. So I love it when I get someone else on that's just as amped up about it. I'm like, oh, preach! I know that.
Yeah, totally. Well, so I mean, I had a crazy experience today. So I'm now the director of 12-step programming for.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Which is really cool. And my passion is facilitating like big book groups. The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is like actually doing the steps, right? Like, no, I had been introduced to them over and over, and it was actually like doing the work that's laid out in that book. And I had a really crazy experience today facilitating a group. I had actually started a group yesterday with some of the residential clients here in treatment, and I decided to take them through the chapter called A Vision for You. And we started reading it and talking about it. And I had that same group today, and I decided to just pick back up where I left off reading yesterday. And I'm going through this chapter, and it gets to the part in A Vision for You where Bill goes out to Akron, Ohio, right? And it's after Bill Wilson, one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? He, for the like 6 months, he's going around, he's trying to help people get sober, right? And no one's getting sober. And at the end of about 6 months, he turns to his wife, Lois, and says to her, honey, like nobody is getting sober. And she says, but you are, Bill. Right? And he realizes that like he has to help other alcoholics, right? And so I'm going through this chapter in the book, and I get to the part where he's out in Akron, Ohio, and he's in this hotel lobby, and the business deal that he goes out there for falls through, and he's pretty restless and irritable and discontent and pretty fucking miserable, right? Like he's not happy at all. And on one side of this hotel lobby, there's a bar. And there's people drinking and laughing and singing. He can hear the music, and he can smell the gin from where he's standing. And right, and it's like that line in More About Alcohol. There's a solution where it says we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other was to accept spiritual help. And so we have Bill in this moment where like he's in this hotel lobby and he really wants to drink. And on one side, there's that go on to the bitter end, right? The bar, it's right there, right? You can feel better, right? You have that solution to this internal condition right there. You can just take a drink or accept some spiritual help. And on the other side of that same hotel, right, there's a phone, and he winds up picking the phone up, and through a series of events, he gets put in touch with Dr. Bob's wife. But Dr. Bob is passed out under a kitchen table. He's too drunk to meet Bill. And Bill gets told, like, nah, dude, you got to wait, right? And I say to the clients all the time, like, that accepting spiritual help, see, the thing about spiritual help is I don't get to decide what it looks like or where it comes from or who it comes from or when it comes. And because Bill was willing to wait, he did meet with Bob. And I go on and I'm sharing all this about Bob's relapse, because, like, ultimately, Bob thought it was a good idea to go out to New Jersey for a conference, and he gets shit-faced on the train, and comes back, and he winds up making amends. And I start telling this whole story to all these clients, and I always wrap up that story by saying that, like, about when Bob finally did make amends, it was on June 10th, 1935. And as I'm saying this, I realized that today is June 10th, 2020. It's been 85 years to the day since that moment took place. And I did not have that planned at all. But as I'm saying it, June 10th, 1935, I'm like, holy shit. And they all just like, it was incredible, right? God shot. Like, I love moments like that.
God shows you're right where you need to be. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing. Not as cool as that, but I went to a psychic a couple weeks ago. And she kept pulling this card. And she was like, dude, there's something in Ohio. And I went with some of my friends, and they're like, what? She's coming. And I was like, guys, it's where AA was founded, duh. Because it's just like something that's so strong in my life that of course it would show up in like my tarot reading and my tarot deck. Like Ohio. And I was like, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
And my beautiful girlfriend is from Ohio too.
Really?
So when I went out there to see her family, we went to Akron and we went to Dr. Bob's house and to his grave. Didn't get to visit the hotel. Maybe next trip we'll do that. But yeah,
it's really exciting. They I mean, New Hampshire and Massachusetts, of course, are pretty far up there with the epidemic, but Ohio is really bad as well. They are lacking resources out there. I was offered a job to go out there and work for a treatment center a couple of years ago. I almost took it. Yeah. Glad I didn't, though.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you didn't, too. Then we wouldn't be doing this.
So, Ricky, I haven't known you for that long, and we've actually only, other than me randomly messaging you, asking you to come on the show, we've only talked one other time. But I was very moved by you, and the beautiful Miss Jessie here. We were at the Black Balloon Day. And, when you had shared from the podium, it was so moving and so heartfelt. And I just felt like you really, really, really have something to offer. And so you had just like touched on, like what it was like for you before. And so our show usually is live, but, we're due to our little COVID remix. It's not live, and it's going to be edited, and it'll get out there in a couple weeks, but it will be pushed out all over social media. And so people all over the country and all over the world will have an opportunity to see this show. And we also have a YouTube channel that will be put up on where we have followers. But for everyone that's like watching and hopeless, I wanted you to just maybe share what it was like a little bit before, because like where you're at right now, your life is really beautiful. And I just happen to think you're a rock star. So, to see from what you went like to what you were like, to what you're like now, I think is a beautiful transformation. So in your words, if you could kind of lay that out for our viewers.
Yeah, of course. And it's crazy that sometimes the most painful moments can sometimes turn out to be those moments that like catapult us into our divine destiny. And so I guess like I already shared, obviously, drugs and alcohol and the whole nine, and in and out of treatment and trying to get sober and a bunch of different modalities and I just I couldn't I could get sober, but I couldn't stay sober. Right. I never got to this place of being recovered. And but eventually, so and I probably shared this in Concord at National Overdose Awareness Day, but like the selfishness and self-centeredness of my illness brings me to this point where all I really care about is getting high one more time, right? And if I have to lie to you or steal from you or fight you or break your heart in order for me to like get high one more time, like so be it. And so I wind up in this frame of mind where like I will do anything to just get like one more shot of dope in me, one more shot of coke in me, and I wind up like my mother, right? She's like so desperate and so broken, and recognizes that the window of opportunity for a person like me to wind up back in rehab, like it's so small, right? We die. Like very rarely do we actually go to rehab and get well. And so she's so desperate, right? That when I turn to her and I'm like, all right, Ma, I will go anywhere you want me to go. I will do anything you want me to do. Just like, please give me some money so I can get drugs, so I can get high one more time, right? And I break this woman's heart like again and again and again, and all she wants is like, all right, Ricky, fine, but please leave your bedroom door open so I know you're not dead, right? And when you're done, like I'll drive you to detox, I'll drive you to rehab, and she does. And I get introduced to this work, right? And the work as it's laid out in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I start to identify with it, like a genuine identification with this work, and I start the step process, and like and I go to sober living and I get a home group and I get a job in the home group and I have a sponsor and I'm writing 10-step inventory and I'm doing all these things, right? But it's still all about like me and how I feel and what I think is going to make me okay. And when when AA doesn't make me feel good and when step work doesn't make me feel good, right, I start thinking maybe a girl's going to make me feel good and she doesn't. I think a job's going to make me feel good and it doesn't. And I think some money's going to make me feel good and it doesn't. Because like at the end of the day,
or if it does, it's for a brief period, but then you're chasing something else.
Yeah. It's like, you know what feels better like than AA and a girl and a job, like heroin and cocaine, like that shit just feels better. And so ultimately, at 11 and a half months sober, I think it's a good idea to get high again, right? Not recovered, but sober. And I wind up getting high. And I have to start this whole process over. And in the second time around, I start getting on my knees and I ask God to take away this obsession. I start taking this work seriously. And where it winds up leading me is that at about 3 months recovered, or getting recovered anyways, I don't know if I was recovered at that point, but I knew I had to make amends to some people, like some difficult amends. And I wanted to reach out to my best friend, this girl that I had grown up with, that I had used with. She was my prom date in high school. And eventually me and her were getting high together, right? Shooting heroin together in her parents' basement when we should be taking care of her little son, her 6-year-old son. And I wanted to make amends to her. But the thing with that was every time I go see her and she's using and I'm sober, I wind up using with her. And so I decided that instead of trying to make amends to her, I would make amends to her mother. And I reached out to her mother and I had this heartfelt conversation with her mother. And I told her that I'm willing to do anything to make it right? Kind of like what I had said to my mother, right? I'm willing to go anywhere if you get me high again. But now after doing some of this work wholeheartedly, honestly, thoroughly, I was saying to her, I'm willing to do anything to make it right. And she says, the only thing I would ask is if her daughter could, if she wanted to get help, would I be able to help her? Would I help her get into treatment? And 2 weeks after that amends, I get a phone call from the mother. And I want to believe in that moment she's calling to say that her daughter wants to go to treatment, but she was actually calling to tell me that my best friend had just died of a heroin overdose. And you see, in that moment, like, although I wanted to say, like, fuck you, AA and rehab and the 12-step, like, I'm supposed to feel better. Like, I feel miserable at this moment. But I show up to the funeral and I show up sober and I'm there with my best friend's now 8-year-old son. And for the first time, I cared more about how this little boy felt than what I felt or what I thought I needed to be okay. I was like, it's not about me anymore, right? That mother and father who just lost their daughter, they're more important to me than what I think I need to be okay. And Monday, this past Monday, I got to spend the whole day with that little boy at the beach, at Seabrook Beach. We got to go swimming and hang out and use his metal detector and build a sandcastle and play football. And I get to be there for that little boy. And to me, that's what this is all about, right? So
it's amazing.
Quite a story.
I know, I'm like tearing up over it.
Seriously, because like I knew how that story was gonna end. So like I like felt sick in my stomach and I was like, I hate this story, you know. But like it's so powerful. And like you gotta keep telling it because, you know, it's important that people know that we can get better and where it will take us if we don't, you know.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
I got to give my best friend's mother my 1-year medallion at 1 year sober, right? And now it's 2 weeks from today, I'll celebrate 3 years.
Hey!
Yeah, so June's a really cool month. We got Founders Day, my sobriety birthday. Things are really cool. And like I said, that was probably one of the most painful things I've ever experienced. But in that moment, like, the thing that I thought was absolutely certain to make me get high again didn't. And that was when that's when I realized that, like, holy crap. Because there's one of the promises in the 9-step promises around the amends process says that we'll suddenly realize that God has done for us what we could not do for ourselves. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. And what I could never do for myself was stop making my life all about myself. It was always driven by, like, what I think I need to be okay. Like, yeah, I'll do that if it makes me feel better. But if it doesn't, then I'm all set. And now all of a sudden, like, it wasn't about me anymore. Right? It was about the person that needs me to show up, whether that person's a drug addict, alcoholic, or the son of a drug addict, alcoholic, or the daughter, or whoever, really.
It's crazy because that's the thing that provides the relief, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the purpose.
Go figure.
Being selfless, showing up for others, not thinking, so I'm changing careers. And so I've worked at the facility that I work at for a couple of years now, and their family, and I love them. I love them so much. And I'm excited for this new opportunity that I've been given. Just moved. We're re-renovating our new place to live. So there's a lot of changes going on in my life, and I noticed over the last couple of weeks, like, I've been really moody and I've been irritable. And I literally sat down and I sat with self the other day. I was like, dude, you've been so self-absorbed. You've been so worried about you and your move and getting your walls up and, like, taking care of this so you can start your new job, that, like, you forgot, like, you still got purpose and, like, you still got time to finish out, and, like, you need to get the F out of you because that's why you're miserable. It's so cool though, because, like, I'm still a human,
Oh, totally. Yeah. That third step, like, relieve me of the bondage of self. It's not like you just take this, like, you say this prayer and, like, we're good. See, the whole thing is, like, I will forever experience degrees of restlessness, irritability, and discontentment. The thing is now, like, my solution to that doesn't break the hearts of the people I love. Whereas, like, my only solution to that for a long time was to do something that was ultimately going to break my mother's heart, right? Mm-hmm. And now I've discovered a solution through this step work and through a relationship with a higher power, and through reaching out my hand to another sick and suffering alcoholic and drug addict, that, like, now my solution to that internal, like, crap, right? Like, it doesn't hurt anyone. Actually, ironically, it helps people. My solution to fix me now helps other people, which is
happens to be other people's solution too. It's ironic because you keep talking about not breaking your mom's heart, and I just feel, like, really compelled to tell you that we shot a show before yours, and our guest was my mom.
Oh.
Yeah, our guest was my mom, and me and my mom, we've been through hell together. We've used together. We're trauma survivors. We've been through a lot of really rough things that families don't make it out of. And this week, my mom's staying with me.
That's so beautiful.
I know. She has her own room in my house.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Like, my mom has her own room, and, like, I freaking built her bed, man. Like, I built it. I sat up all night long swearing at it and screwing it together. But so it's because it was so important to me that, like, my mom has her room here. And, like, my mom has comfort when she's here. And because, like, even though, like, me and my mom have been through hell together, like, I've put my mom through hell too.
Mm-hmm. I was just down there, like, so my parents still live in Lawrence, and it's crazy. Like, I live in South Portland now, and like, I go home, like, I go to see my parents, and I'm driving down these streets where I used to, like, buy and sell and use drugs. And
that must be so hard.
You would think so. And I can remember, like, the first time I was holding on to the steering wheel for dear life, right? Like, please don't let me, like, stop, right? And now like I almost don't even realize it till like I get back home that like, oh, I was just in Lawrence. I truly have like recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and so long as I have a reason for being there, right, then like I can go anywhere in this world that other free men may go. If I have no reason for being, right, like I don't just go hang out in bars and crack houses, right? But I fully believe that I am protected by the power and care and love of God, and that if I have a reason for being somewhere, I can go anywhere and I'll be okay. And that's a beautiful thing that I never thought I would have. I thought I was going to have to like try to not get high every day. Like, fuck, like I can't get high. Like, no.
I think it's partly true too that like, I mean, neuroplasticity, like you do it enough times where like, that's not the first thing that comes to mind anymore. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, I'm just driving home to my parents' house, you know, like, whereas early in sobriety, it might've been harder because you're remembering those times when you are going to pick up. And like, I fully believe that, yes, you know, with the steps and God, anything's possible. But you know, I think a little bit of it does play into the science as well.
Oh yeah, totally. Early on, very different story.
Our brain's a little fried.
Yeah. A lot of really
it's
hard work.
important to remember too that like old timers, like they relapse, you know what I mean? And like there's all different pathways, but like for some of us, like we're called to walk that spiritual life. And like for some of us, like if we don't remain in fit spiritual condition, like I have to drive through Lawrence twice a day, once to get to work and once to get home from work. You know, and that could be dangerous if I don't remain spiritually fit, you know, and I know that to be my truth, and that's not other people's truth, and that's okay, but that's my truth. So
yeah. I have a daily, I mean, and sorry for being such a big book thumper, but like I have a daily reprieve based upon the maintenance of my spiritual condition, right? And so when I wake up in the morning, I get down on my knees and I ask God to give me opportunities to be of service, to help me to turn my will and my life over to His care, right? Like all of that. So, and then like I go throughout my day and I just trust God, clean house, help others, and it takes me to incredible places. And I'm beyond blessed, but I'm not without my own struggles, right? Like you said, Jasmine, that like life is real. And so like, I have to I can't let up. If I let up, I'm in trouble.
We're going to call this the Big Book AA segment. But
he's going to be famous soon. He's going to be like a circuit speaker.
I know.
I'm like, y'all heard it here first.
So Ricky, we were just out of time. So if you have anything, you know, you want to say, message of hope, if you want to give people a way to contact you, now's the time.
Yeah, of course. It's Ricky Parah, P-A-R-A-H. You can add me on Facebook. Cell phone's 978-764-0412. If you want to shoot me a text, any way I can be of service to anybody, reach out, let me know. I love you all.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Ricky. And thanks, Jazz. It was good to see you guys. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Love you, Jessie.
Thanks, Jessie.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.